Hey, Mr. Mayor, we're live and ready when you are.
Okay, sounds good. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. This is a regular meeting of the Seldovia City Council, Monday, July 28th, 2025. Time is 6:06 p.m. And we'll go ahead and do roll call. Keithley.
Here.
Langbart.
Here.
Barber.
Here.
Rojas.
Here.
Okay, and Peyton is absent, so that'll give us 4 council members present, which is a quorum. So we've got enough to proceed. And Liz or Heidi, if you could help us out with leading us off for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. Item C, as we had said, excused absence Peyton tonight. Item D, agenda approval. We'll look for motion to approve tonight's agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
I'll go ahead and second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Rojas to approve tonight's agenda, second by Langvar. Any further discussion on the agenda before we vote? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote on the approval of tonight's agenda. All those in favor, Keithley?
Aye.
Langbart?
Aye.
Barber?
Aye.
Rojas?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 4 in the affirmative, 1 absent. Item E, consent agenda. All items under the consent agenda are approved with a single motion, no discussion, and 1 vote. A council member may request to remove any item for discussion in a separate vote. Items removed from the consent agenda will be placed under new business. Tonight's consent agenda consists of approval of the minutes of the special meeting for June 16th, 2025. Those are found on page 5 of your packet. The second item on the consent agenda is item 2A. This will be ordinance introduction of ordinance 26-01, an ordinance to the City Council of the City of Seldovia, Alaska, amending Seldovia Municipal Code, Section 3.08.010 to adjust City of Seldovia sales tax rate, subject to approval of City of Seldovia voters. If the Kenai Peninsula Borough voters approve the borough's proposed seasonal tax rate structure. This can also be found on page 8 of your packet. Does any member wish to remove any item at this time from the consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I would like to make a motion to remove the item in regards to the sales tax rate adjustment from the consent agenda and move down to the regular meeting for council discussion.
Okay, sounds good. That's item 2A. That's the introduction of ordinance 26-01. We'll go ahead and remove that. That'll now be placed down under new business under item M3. So item M3.
Perfect.
Okay. Any other items from council to be removed? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and look for a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda as amended.
I'll make a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda as amended.
Second.
Okay, we have a second. Okay, we have a motion by Langbart, or excuse me, a motion by Keithley to approve tonight's consent agenda as amended. That's with the item number 2 removed. We have a second by Rojas. Any further discussion on tonight's consent agenda before we vote? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote on the approval of tonight's consent agenda with only item 1, the approval of the minutes for the special meeting June 16th. All those in favor, Keithley?
Aye.
Langbart?
Aye.
Barber?
Aye.
Rojas?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 4 in the affirmative, 0 opposed, 1 absent. Okay, item F, mayoral proclamations. We have none tonight. Item G, public presentation prior notice. We have 2 presentations tonight. The first one will be from Severin Bentz with the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation. And this is in regards to a proposal.
Thank you. I'm Sabrina Bentz. I just got elevated to a panelist, and if it's okay with you all, I'll start sharing my screen to start our first presentation.
Sounds good.
Can you see my slides okay?
Looks good.
Great. Thank you. And thank you so much for having us here from the National Estuarine Research Reserve today. With the 2 presentations, we'll just have one and then some question time, and then we'll roll right into the next one with Lauren Sutton and Jackson Pilifant are my co-presenters tonight. Like I said, my name is Sabrina Bentz. I'm the Coastal Training and Engagement Coordinator for the Kachemak Bay National Estuarine Research Reserve. And we're going to talk a little bit about a recent proposal for the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, and then also just kind of our model of community-driven science and engagement to cover a couple recent local projects and proposals that could be of interest for the Seldovia City Council. So our mission at the NER is to enhance understanding and appreciation of Alaskan coastal ecosystems to ensure that they remain healthy and productive. And you all may remember this from prior presentations from our manager, Catherine Shaky, to the council. We're one of a network of 30 National Estuarine Research Reserves nationwide, and the partnership is between NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, and here in Alaska, our reserve is housed within the University of Alaska Anchorage, Alaska Center for Conservation Science. As you can see, Seldovia is in our direct service area within the boundaries of the reserve, but we serve the whole bioregion. So everything that we do in Kachemak Bay here is a great way to study and engage about our coastal habitats and ecosystems, and then spread that learning more broadly throughout the region. So we have kind of 4 different pillars of work that we do. We have long-term monitoring, we have research, discrete research projects, we have the coastal training and engagement program, and then we have education that focuses on K-12 and teacher opportunities. We also have a community council that guides the reserve's work, and we have representatives from Seldovia communities on our council. Michael Opheim and Brentwood Higman are both on our council, and it's really nice to have voices from the south side of the bay helping guide us in our work. What I'm going to cover here in this first few minutes is a little bit thinking about wetlands and watersheds and some of the work that we have been doing for the past 25 years that we think is kind of really a ripe time to discuss more with the community of Seldovia and leadership there. So what the general guidance from NOAA about enhancing coastal resilience really focuses on thriving coastal communities and ecosystems. So think about the things that might help Seldovia thrive in relation to adaptation for future environmental change, mitigating impacts from storms, flooding, sea level rise, habitat restoration, and nature-based infrastructure and solutions for fish and wildlife, protecting lives and property, sustaining commercial, recreational, and subsistence fishing, recovering threatened and endangered species, and helping maintain and foster vibrant coastal economies and lifestyles. So those are some of the dimensions that we are thinking about in our current and proposed work. And this summer was a really great opportunity. We were able to have a few City of Seldovia staff, including the manager, Heidi, and then Amanda Miller, over to Homer to do a really interesting site visit at the water source, the Bridge Creek Reservoir. So we hosted dialogue and demonstrations at the Bridge Creek Reservoir with our science partners, as well as resource managers and decision makers involved in community water supply. what was really great is we had some in the field demonstrations to understand and talk about what makes a resilient water source, both for fish and wildlife and for people. And then we also got to have a tour of the City of Homer water treatment facility, which was very, very interesting. And I didn't even know that there was a formal relationship between City of Homer and City of Seldovia as far as sharing information and guidance around some of the processes related to water. The things we focused on for that field site day were sharing tools and strategies for assessing and monitoring freshwater resources. We were also connecting groundwater science with local land and water decision making. So there's still a little bit of unknowns around kind of our water budget and what we really know about the sustainability of some of our water sources. We identified some barriers to building a complete water budget for the region on the north side of the bay here, and brainstorm some solutions to fill some of that information gaps. And then we also discussed collaboration on community freshwater forecasting, science needs, and resilient water management. So that sparked some really awesome follow-up dialogue, especially with the City of Seldovia staff. The science and engagement partners that the reserve works with are really excited to learn more about Seldovia's local water and wetlands context and your priorities. And we are brainstorming about a follow-up site visit, kind of a reciprocal visit in late September. We haven't nailed down the date yet, but hoping to do that very soon. And then we also have been working really hard on a recent proposal to develop community capacity building and planning for resilient coastal wetlands. And so that proposal was just submitted to the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation National Coastal Resilience Fund opportunity. We had a really great team working on it, and we're really thankful for Heidi Gagel's leadership on the administrative side of this proposal. But in a nutshell, it's the first phase of an opportunity to enhance resilience of coastal communities and fish and wildlife. And this phase is a community resilience and risk reduction planning phase. So there's no like kind of shovel ready or projects like that are going to be funded by it. It's mostly about understanding information gaps, what questions that people have about resilient wetlands and watersheds, addressing maybe some nature-based solutions around aquatic connectivity and issues related to connecting the freshwater and the nearshore environments. And then also nature-based stormwater infrastructure. So how do we work well with water? And you can see here on this map, the focus in is basically the administrative boundaries of City of Seldovia, city-owned parcels, but then also broadening out to the village, Seldovia Village, and some of the residents down the road as well. And here you can see also mapped are some of the wetlands designated in the National Wetland Inventory. So part of the project is really creating good wetland maps as a resource for planning and decision making, which can be aligned with things like comprehensive plan, all hazards mitigation plan, capital improvement plans, or even a climate resilience action and strategy. So we're wanting to make sure that what we produce is really in alignment with ongoing government planning and processes, and it's not inventing a new thing that'll just a new plan that'll sit on the shelf. It'll be integrated in the daily work of communities. The key partners and contributions, the City of Seldovia is the lead applicant, coordination of all of the involved partnerships. Seldovia Village Tribe is a partner, providing guidance on engaging the community around cultural uses and relationships to wetlands, fish, and wildlife, and will also provide their expertise to help map the submerged wetlands. The reserve will design and implement a community engagement and participatory science process. Our friends and colleagues at the University of Alaska Anchorage, Alaska Center for Conservation Science are our wetland mapping leads. So they will be doing those, creating those maps and field assessments. And then our long-term partner, Ecohydrology Research Group at the University of South Florida, will be bringing in that groundwater and water budget, chemistry and hydrology expertise. Additionally, we're really happy that the NOAA Kasutsna Bay Lab down the road at Jackaloff Bay will be providing some support for intertidal and subtidal wetland mapping and modeling. So it's really nice to have all of like the local science team on board for this. And then this project will also build on past and current Chugach Regional Resources Commission wetland mapping projects in coastal communities like Nanwalek and Port Graham. So some similar settings and lessons to learn and exchange across communities. Shifting from that NIFWIF proposal, we also are planning on the horizon to hear about another request for proposals for NER-specific funding for bipartisan infrastructure law. So this is an opportunity where the NER and the Ketchimak Heritage Land Trust have been facilitating some community conversations to identify priorities for land acquisition in the region for public benefit. So this would be bringing in funds directly for communities to acquire lands for conservation that provides benefit to community. So we have a good track record. We have two successful proposals in this region. One is the Ketchimak Sponge. It's a $1.2 million investment in protecting wetlands around the City of Homer Airport and Beluga Lake area. And then for this next round, we have engaged residents and professionals in Seldovia that have nominated 2 areas to our Community Council Lands and Facilities Committee. And the committee found these ideas meritorious, and they would love to see those move forward to develop into full proposals. So when we hear about that request for proposals as it comes out, we'd love to re-engage and look at these 2 project ideas and make sure that they are developed with a lot of community intention in mind. And with that, I would love to pause and see if there's any questions or comments or thoughts for me on the kind of few items that I just presented before I pass it over to our research crew that's going to talk a little bit more about fish and fish habitat and some of the saltier side of our projects.
Any questions from anyone on council tonight? Okay, not hearing anything.
Okay, thank you so much. And Lauren Sutton and Jackson Pilifant are on, and I will just keep sharing if that is okay with you.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks for your the first presentation there. Appreciate that.
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Sabrina. If it's okay, we'll just say next slide so we don't have to go back and forth. Great. Okay. Well, to introduce ourselves first, my name is Lauren Sutton. I'm the research coordinator at the Ketchimak Bay National Estuarine Research Reserve. So my background, I've actually lived in Alaska full time for a little more than a decade now. And then I was one of those that came up way back when to be a kayak guide. And here I am 15 years later, after spending time in Fairbanks and Anchorage and Juneau and Barrow and all those other places. So now I'm excited to be at the reserve. I've been in Homer now for a few years. So I feel like the research is kind of I'm just starting to get enough connections and an understanding of the Bay to really dig in. Just as a warning, my toddler might run in at any moment. And so just fair warning. I appreciate that there's a baby on the screen. So before we go too far in, I want to introduce Jackson, who is working with the reserve this summer.
Yeah, hi, I'm Jackson. I was born and raised in Anchorage, and I grew up spending the summers here in Homer and over on Hesketh Island. So this is my first summer working with the Research Reserve as an intern, but it's been really great to spend the summer here now that I'm older and able to appreciate it more.
Yeah, cool. So we just wanted to share thanks, Sabrina, what we're doing with juvenile fish monitoring. We have a project, well, I guess to step back, the Research Reserve, in partnership with a whole bunch of other entities, has been monitoring juvenile fish populations in and around Ketchimak Bay for decades. The narrative of the Research Reserve for baby fish, we kind of joke, started at the estuary, moved up into the watershed, and has now come back down to the estuary. So we're really interested in tracking different fish populations over time. And NOAA Fisheries in the Alaska Regional Office in Juneau reached out a couple years ago, and they would like to improve their essential fish habitat maps And so since we have already working in the juvenile fish world, we're trying to partner on this. The funding for that's been a little precarious, but this summer was our pilot year to try to find areas that we could do long-term beach seining for juvenile fish, and then right now we're trying to figure out how to kind of get this project keep going. So we were just going to chat a little bit about this project, mostly to share what we're finding and what we've done in the past. And I would like to throw it out that there's not a lot of us here, so if anyone has a question, just feel free to interrupt at any point. Again, like the goal here was we wanted to share what we were working on, what we were finding, and then there's another proposal that I'm putting in a couple days that I'd also just like to share what we're up to. So with that, I'll hand it over to Jackson for our next slide.
Yeah, so this project was originally started with the Nearshore Fish Atlas, which up until this point hasn't been super directed. It's basically just been where they can sort of put all the nearshore fish work that has been done. So it's not necessarily long-term monitoring, but all these projects that are in the database up until this point have been hypothesis-driven questions. So they're very different depending on where you're sampling and what methods you're using. And so having a long-term monitoring program like this NOAA program that we're trying to start would be great for sort of creating standard operating procedures for sampling the nearshore fish populations and just getting a better idea of what sort of trends we see that are actually happening versus due to sampling bias or difference in methodologies. So Seldovia Bay is a very, it's an ideal place for doing this long-term monitoring because of the location near Seldovia, which gives us this access to these communities that can help us sort of find what they want us to focus on. And they've been here for so long. So you guys have been here for so long that you can sort of guide us in what you want us to monitor and sort of direct this long-term monitoring effort. And then, as you know, there's also lots of nearshore juvenile fish habitat, some important ones being kelp and eelgrass habitat. So I just think there's tons of opportunity for community engagement and outreach. And yeah, I think that this could benefit both sides quite a bit. Next slide. So I dug a little bit into the past research that has gone into the nearshore fish database, specifically for Seldovia Bay. And since most of the questions in the database up until this point have been pertaining more to the Gulf of Alaska as a whole, there isn't a very extensive amount of data. But what the data that we do have shows is basically that surprise, Seldovia has very variable fish communities depending on the year, the season, and when during the day even that you sample for fish. And some of the fish that we've been seeing in this past data include sand lance, which is pretty ubiquitous around the bay, so it's not surprising. And then other commercially significant species like salmon and herring. So this just paints a picture of Seldovia Bay being really important and useful for getting an idea of the wider communities of nearshore fish in Kachemak Bay, and then maybe even broader in the Gulf of Alaska. Next slide. And so some more data shows that we've broken it up more based on season, and even looking at different seasons, you have tons of variability because all these fish spawn in the spring and then they're growing throughout the summer season. So that's when you find most variability in the fish community structures. And then once the fall comes around, it's more the year-round species that stick around, and the other ones are adults and move to deeper waters or out into the open ocean, what have you. Next slide. And one interesting trend that I noticed looking into the nearshore fish atlas from the past was that species richness appears to decrease over time. So when you're looking at data taken in 1999, the average number of species was between 30 and 32. And then see 2017, you're lower than 26. And the long-term monitoring program could help to make these trends either more robust or disprove them, because it's easy to find a trend with 2 points. It's just making a line go up or down. So if we had more sampling periods in between that, we could really make a claim about trends that we're seeing. So that sort of goes to show why having some long-term monitoring would be super useful for sort of understanding what's going on in the nearshore fish habitats. Next slide. And then this summer, we spent the summer going out seining. We went out in June and July, and we seined at Church Beach. We did 2 sets, I believe, in June and 3 in July. And the most abundant fish that we saw right off Church Beach was Pacific cod. And then the next 2 are crescent gunnel and saffron cod. So that's just a little bit about what we're seeing currently. And it also depends when we go out seasonally. So if we'd gone out earlier, we might have caught more herring or juvenile salmon. So it would just be so beneficial to have that monitoring where we can go out more regularly and also over a longer period of time to sort of see what the overall community structure is. Yeah, and I'm going to turn it back to Lauren.
Cool. Thanks, Jackson. Does anyone have any questions before we I just have I think 2 more slides, but is there any questions about the fish population stuff?
You guys can just chime in if
Could you
you
ask
have
me a
any
question?
questions. Go ahead, Jack.
No.
No. Okay. Yeah. Again, so this is part of a pilot year, a lot to get our methods down again, but the bigger picture is that NOAA Fisheries is interested in creating a Sentinel Sites program. So we'll start in Ketchimak Bay and then bring in other locations around the Gulf of Alaska. So the next spot would be Kodiak, that we would hopefully be doing this, once or twice a month beach seining. So you may have seen us at Church Beach. We have a little 8-foot skiff with a 3.5 kicker on it. And so we pull the seine just very close to shore at low tide, and then we pull in the net. And again, we're targeting juvenile fish, and so all our fish are this big. So it is kind of fun to try to identify those tiny fish. But like Jackson said, we didn't go out in May, so kind of for better or for worse, we missed most of the herring run and the salmon run. And so something that I would love to check back in with the city of Seldovia and other community members is, as we're moving forward with this project, are there specific species, times, whatever, that we should focus on? We went to Church Beach because that's where we had permission from the city to be. But in the future, it'd be great to work a bit more with Seldovia Village Tribe and other folks, so that we can expand our monitoring footprint, if that's what people want. So just a little more. I was taking notes on things that I thought might be applicable or you all might be interested in. And I guess the big takeaway there is that there's still a lot of time to direct the where this project goes. So that's why we wanted to present today, to put it on your radar. So when we follow up, hopefully people have been thinking about, what does it mean to monitor juvenile nearshore fish, and where do we care to do this? So moving forward, so that project will continue. But we also wanted to, we're also comparing these nearshore fish populations to our ongoing long-term water quality data. So we have the research reserve has a water quality station at the end of the fuel dock in Seldovia. So we have a sonde that measures temperature, salinity, turbidity, pH, dissolved oxygen, and conductivity or salinity. And so we have an instrument that's about 1 meter below the surface and 1 meter above the seafloor. And those instruments take measurements every 15 minutes. So the deep instrument is telemetered, so it actually, we can see what's going on in real time, which is pretty cool to be able to track temperature, salinity, and all that. And then the surface sonde is actually on a buoy, so we have to switch that out about once a month, but that also records chlorophyll in addition to all the other parameters. So it's pretty neat because any long-term project that we have in Ketchimak Bay, we're able to use these environmental data. And so if anyone's at all interested in this, I will talk your ear off and walk you through how to use like the real-time application and things like that. But we just wanted to reiterate that we do have that station at the end of the fuel dock. We're there once a month. It'd be great to try to pair more visits, I guess. Like if we are moving forward and working with each other more, I think that's a really good time. If we have any in-person meetings that we want to do. The other thing that I wanted to throw out right now is building off of the proposal that Sabrina talked about earlier. We're putting in for the Alaska Sustainable Salmon Fund, and this is to map subsistence fisheries, specifically looking at juvenile salmon habitat. And so one of the areas that, after chatting with folks around the Gulf of Alaska, that is missing is the kind of habitat profiles of these different juvenile salmon locations. And so we put together a proposal looking at habitats in Nanwalek, Seldovia, and Anchor Point, and specifically thinking about the different estuaries. And so I think actually can't remember, Heidi, if I think Sabrina reached out to you for a letter of support for this proposal. But it should be pretty cool. The Nanwalek's particularly interested in if they can start a Chinook run similar to the one in Seldovia Slough. And then I also think that the community of Seldovia, I think you all might be interested in learning a bit more about the pick tagging study that's going on in the Anchor Point estuary. So this proposal is kind of not only just doing basic mapping of like eelgrass, like sediment characteristics type stuff, salt marsh plants, and plankton ecology, but it's also it also provides quite a bit of funding for each of these locations to meet and talk to each other, assuming that everyone can learn from everyone else. So I just want to throw that out that is a proposal that's going in a couple days. So if it is funded, it would really build off of what Sabrina already has worked on with the city. And the hope is that it would just build more information. I think specifically for Seldovia, we'd be thinking about what does maintenance of this, a really important fishery look like moving forward. So right now it's a pretty good gold standard compared to lots of other fisheries around Cook Inlet. Next slide. Yeah, so I think that's about all I had. I'll just put out a reminder that we are hoping to go seining for a nearshore fish. Actually, I think the date's August 12th. I think that was just changed. Sorry, Sabrina. But we'll check back in. It'd be great to have any of you out. It is a ton of fun. It's like, it's like Christmas if you like fish. Like you put out the net and you pull up a bunch of juvenile fish, and then we count them, identify them. It's pretty fun. So we'd love to have any of you come join us for that. And then maybe I'll let Sabrina talk about the water wetland site. And yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just another invite to if people are interested in learning more or discussing water and wetlands assets and issues in the Seldovia area, we'll have all of our research team that focuses on those like aquatic connectivity and hydrology available to talk with folks and do site visits. So really looking forward to that as well. Our contact info is all on the screen, and love to hear from anyone. If you don't have any questions now for us, but think of something later or have some recommendations, we just love to hear it and have an open door. So thank you.
Awesome. Sounds great. Anyone from council have any questions?
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead, Vivian.
Yeah, thank you all for the great presentation you brought to us tonight. We all live here and we all rely on the ocean as our friend and provider. So I really appreciate the study you're doing. One question I had was when you're doing the sampling close to shore, near shore, so what is the trend you're trying to see, or what do you hope you see over time? And then I think I heard you say that you're going to try to do in deeper water also, but what is the trend that you would like to see for a healthy environment? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I don't know if we're hoping to see any specific trend. The impetus behind this is that there are certain areas that folks, are not allowed to fish in based on the essential fish habitat maps for commercial fisheries. So just thinking about this beach seining NOAA proposal. But what they don't include in their models that's pretty important, right? Like it sets all these management decisions is this early life history phase. So I guess my goal, and this might be more of a personal goal than like it's specifically to this project, but is to think about the ecosystem as a whole. And so if we want healthy fisheries, which of these areas that we say are nursery habitats are really important nursery habitats. So like what we're finding that just this, like we've just gone out twice, but right. So we're finding that Pacific cod is abundant right now.
I'd also like to add that I think the beauty of this long-term monitoring project is that it's not hypothesis driven. It's sort of more exploratory. And it's so we don't know what the baseline is because we don't have that historical data, which is why we need this long-term monitoring program to create a baseline that we can look back on potentially in the future after a disturbance like a marine heat wave or some kind of other unpredictable event, and have the baseline there to show us what historical fish populations looked like. Mm-hmm. And then we'll have a better idea of what we want to have happen in the future sampling.
Right.
Yeah. So it's like, what are we hoping for? It's I don't know. You just need to see what's there first. And then I think you can make those decisions of like, okay, so for example, your herring, right? That's a different population than folks are used to. Is that still true? And is that still true for like other places around the Gulf of Alaska? Yeah. Well said.
Thank you.
Yeah. I have just a quick question. When you guys are doing the your beach seining there, your test fishery there, how long of a net are you using and how deep?
Yeah, it's let's see. Okay, quizzing. 37 meters long.
Okay.
With I'm trying to remember. I think it's 9 meters wide. Yeah, so and the mesh size is pretty small. And it moves slow enough that generally bigger fish can swim out. Because we take like one end, we just hold on the beach, and then the other end is kind of spooled out from that little skiff as it comes around.
Right.
So we're really targeting those smaller, slower fish. I mean, we've gotten like a couple of big ones, but yeah, it's definitely a juvenile fish target.
Yeah, I just was
come out.
That. Yeah, and it's got a little miniature cork line and lead line like a typical net. Okay. No, sounds good. Yeah, I had an observation this week. I was out kayaking just right around Church Beach and around the point there and around the corner, and there was a lot of pigeon guillemots out there, and every one of them was coming up with a mouthful of sand lance. And I mean, it's super clear to see because they're long and skinny, and they're just engorged with them. But yeah, I don't ever really get to see the little baby juvenile Pacific cod.
Right.
I've never seen them really in the mouths of the birds, but I'm sure they're there, obviously. So, but yeah, sounds like fun to go out and participate in that and see what you get.
Yeah. Yeah. We spent a lot of time, trying to figure out like, is there a barbel right here? Is it a nubbin? Is it and the
Yeah,
fish, again, they're like 3 inches
yeah,
long.
tiny. Cool, cool. All right. Any other questions for these guys while we have them? All right. Well, it sounds like you guys are going to be back in a couple weeks then. So sounds like an open invite and a lot of fun. So yeah, appreciate the work you guys are doing. Thanks for the presentation on the proposals and the research where you guys are at. So we'll look forward to seeing you guys again in a couple weeks and then catching you on the next update.
Cool.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, you guys. Have a good night.
You too.
Appreciate it. All right. That concludes item G. We'll move down to item H, public presentation for items not on the agenda. Liz, do we have anyone tonight that wishes to speak?
I'm not seeing any hands raised, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Sounds good. Let's see, we'll move on to item I, committee and advisory board reports. None listed. Item J, administrative reports. Looks like we have 4 of those tonight. The first one's going to be the finance report. And I see Jan is online, and this is also on page 17 of your packet.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, loud and clear, Jan.
All right, and rather than page 17 of your packet, I am hoping that Liz will share her screen. There have been some changes to the finance report since the packet was done. And so, and unfortunately, I got them to Liz too late for her to put them in the laydown. So she offered to at least get them on the screen. So I'm going to direct your attention to the screen instead. And the changes are due to the interfund transfers from the AMLEP account to some of the special revenues funds that the council requested, and those unfortunately got done a little bit late. They were still recorded in FY25, but they were done after the first version of this finance report. So that's why you'll see the changes. So basically, rather than do, again, like last year, rather than do a finance report for FY25 when we are 4 weeks into it, it made more sense to me to look at a wrap up of FY25 that we finished in June. And so looking at the general fund, we accrued for 108% of our revenues. And so I'd say that the budget, Heidi always works at, budgeting the revenues somewhat conservatively and the expenditures a little bit over budget. And so I'd say that the revenues at 108% of projected are pretty much on target with what we expected. Sales tax was quite close at 104% and real property at 105. Personal property is what brought us up above at 116, although of course personal property tax pales in total compared to sales tax, and 105% of projected for motor vehicle tax. So we exceeded our projections in all of those categories, which is great news. And then we also managed to stay under our projected expenditures in almost every category. The one where we exceeded for the general fund, we were pretty close. You can see the numbers there. The lowest police at 62%, and then the only one that exceeded was the multi-purpose building at 103%. And I think that was because a lot of our insurance goes to the multi-purpose building for property insurance. Refuse, which is not its own category. Technically, it is a subset of public works, but we track it to just kind of see how our revenues versus expenses are working in that area. It did have a small profit of just about $1,000. And given that a lot of the refuse time is for city properties. That actually is really good news, I think. And so the net effect, and again, and that should say FY25 rather than FY24. I apologize for that. And then again, this is obviously unaudited, but we are projecting a bit over $200,000 in their net effect for the general fund for FY25. So again, that is good news. Interest income at just over $23,000, and that is strictly, that's the AMLIP accounts and well, basically it's the AMLIPS accounts and a couple other small accounts. It does not include the Charles Schwab, which is also doing quite well. I haven't looked at the number in the Charles Schwab in the last couple of weeks since I reconciled it for June, but we are seeing of our initial investment of $500,000 there. I think the Charles Schwab right now is around $120,000 in increased over the initial investment, so that's also doing quite well. The water special revenue funds, 104% of revenue, 94% of the projected budget for expenditures. The net effect without the transfer from the major maintenance and repairs fund, we were a bit over $15,000 in the black. With the transfer, about $30,500 over. So that fund ended the year in good shape. Same with the sewer special revenue fund, revenues at 108%, expenditures at 87. Net effect approximately 16,000 without the transfer. That one had a much smaller transfer of about $5,700. So a net for the year of 21,000. The dock is one that without the transfer would not have ended in the black. Our revenues with the transfer at 118,000 and expenditures were a bit higher at 108,000. Without the transfer, we would have been about $6,000 in the red for the dock. And again, that is generally because we went an entire quarter with no ferry stops, where the only revenue for that dock, basically from January until early April, was a couple of crane uses and then the phone bill for the ferry phone. We still charge the phone bill even if the ferry doesn't come. But every month that we don't have a ferry really hurts that fund. Harbor Jackaloff Special Revenue Fund, 124% of projected revenues, 95% of projected expenditures. There was no transfer from MMRF for this fund, so this is just the numbers that it earned itself. Net effect of a little over $64,000. As you may remember from the last audit, the harbor was out of deficit as of the end of FY24 by a little under $5,000, and so FY25 we're starting to see a real nice positive balance in the fund balance for the harbor. So that is really nice to see. That does not include any of these port fees acquired in FY25 so far, but it does include, because we do those by summer, so they go from basically May to September, rather than splitting at the end of the fiscal year. And so port fees from 2024 are included in FY 2025, but the ones accumulated this summer are not in there. They'll go toward FY 26. The special revenue fund for the boat haul out. This is another one that would have been slightly in deficit without the transfer from the MMRF, and that is because of the fairly significant repair that was done to the larger boat trailer this summer. That was very necessary maintenance, but it was quite expensive. And so without that large repair, the boat haul out would have been in the black on its own. Because of the large repair, it did require that fund transfer to go into the black. In terms of other notes, we are still waiting on the June remote seller sales tax. And so the sales tax that I mentioned was still at over 100%, but it will actually improve once we get those numbers. We have the sales tax for June from the borough, but the remote seller sales tax, which is the one that's collected from purchases over the internet, that is generally about 2 months behind. So we should see that for June. We should see that in probably the end of August, beginning of September, and then we'll have our final sales tax numbers for FY25. The other item that shows in a deficit fund is the senior meals. It currently shows that it's about $17,000 and change in the red. That is not accurate. That is only reflecting revenues that have actually been received. And of course, those are the grants that fund that, other than the Homer Foundation, which is fairly small. All those grants are reimbursable type grants. So we need to expend the revenue and then file our reports, and then we are reimbursed for that. So once we have the reimbursement, I expect that senior meals will be approximately $5,000 in the black for the year. And so that'll be some funding that we can add to the fund balance for that grant program. And that is largely due to program donations. Our participants have been pretty generous with that. And so the donations from the participants and from some other individuals in the community are what have kind of put that over the line. And so we definitely appreciate that. Quarterly and end of the year reporting, we are closing in on. I still have some senior meals reporting that we're having some trouble with the online reporting spreadsheets, having some functional capabilities, some functional challenges, something, the math isn't mathing, as I think the popular phrase is at the moment. And so I'm waiting for them to make some corrections to that, and then we'll get those reports in, and then we can start to really wrap up FY25. One thing that was new for FY25, or I'm misspeaking there. I think you may have actually added it in FY24, but definitely started really being used in FY25, was putting some of the public safety funds toward the volunteer fire department and EMS for both training and volunteer incentive. And so just to let you know that we did have 2 EMTs who attended the 2024 Southern Region EMS Symposium, which is a really great opportunity that happens in Anchorage every November. We were able to send 2 people to that. We've been able to fund 3 advanced EMT students, so people that were EMT ones that are going to be advanced EMTs, which is a much higher level of training, much higher level of knowledge. It supported that program. And then we also had, when we did a survey of the EMS members to ask what they would be interested in terms of volunteer incentives, one thing that they identified was having some exercise equipment available in the training room, because a lot of them are not able to go to places like the fitness center that SVT provides during the limited hours. And so we have used some of those funds to equip that training room. And we were looking forward to just doing the last little bits with waivers and so on, and then we'll have that up and running. So that's something else that was completed in FY25 with those funds. And I guess in other news, we are meeting tomorrow with LG Rayfield, with the auditors, to talk about the FY25 audit, get that process started. We've also been talking with Aminata Taylor from Taylor Tax and Accounting, who did our preparation for the FY24 audit, and she has indicated that she is very open to being on board for the FY25 process, and so that is off and rolling. And that is my report. I am available for questions.
Great, thanks, Jan. Any questions for the finance officer?
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead, Vivian.
A great report, Jan. Thank you. One question I had was back in the Special Harbor Fund. What do you think, or what did turn our harbor around in Jackloff into being in the black instead of the red?
I don't think there's actually been any one big change. The harbor has actually been operating at a net profit for several years. It's just that at some point in the past, and maybe Heidi can help to address this, at some point in the past, the harbor went into a deficit. I'm not exactly sure why, and that's something that we've been gradually working our way out of for several years. It was last year, it wasn't so much that we turned things around as that we finally got to the point where we had filled that hole, and so we can start building, if that makes sense.
Okay, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else with any questions for Jan tonight?
Through the mayor, if I may just add.
Yeah, go ahead, Heidi.
So related to that harbor question and really in just in general, I really appreciated your report, Finance Officer Yeager, and that you tied it back to the budget as we do. And thinking through, we've started FY26 and feeling fairly confident about the FY26 budget. But as we move through and talk about FY27 budget, and you're looking, we'll continue to provide these numbers, but thinking through what those projected revenue targets are for those funds. This isn't a bank. We don't want to be collecting money and keeping it, but we do want to make sure that we're covering any unanticipated expenses and that we're not ending up in a deficit in the future. So one thing that was done in the FY26 budget is the annuals for the harbor were not increased and the daily rate was not increased. So, holding steady, trying to stay on trend and on target, not trying to push people out of using that space, knowing that 64,000 a year is, it's that fine line of making sure that we're able to provide that maintenance like we are with hiring a daily or a maintenance person over the summer, completing the little projects that we can, thinking about bigger projects as we move forward, but also that we're not overfunding accounts, if that makes sense. And then, same for general fund with that 213. We know that that's going to be less in FY26 because we have 25,000 less in projected revenue for the community assistance fund. Potentially with the upcoming ordinance that we'll discuss in a little bit, there could be additional loss in revenue. So it doesn't take much to shift what our position is financially, and that's what we've seen in the past between the general fund and the harbor. So it's really great to see that we are remaining on track, but definitely looking at those ending fund balances and thinking through as we move forward, whether we're shifting funds back into the major maintenance and fund, if we're allocating or changing fee structures as we move forward, and that of course that we're meeting those targeted revenue fund balances at the end of every account or every fund at the end of the fiscal year. So hopefully that wasn't too overstepping, but just wanting to really tie that back to the budget that you guys just passed. And then as we move forward through the budget process this year and into FY27 here in the next 6 months, having that in mind of what those funds look like at the end and where we're going with them.
Yeah, thanks for adding in on that, Heidi. And yeah, basically, it's good to see that, obviously the budgeting exercises that we're doing, that you're doing, with being conservative, on the revenues. Obviously it's paying off. All of our, in your forecasting, all of our revenues are exceeding their targets, which is good in terms of budgeting. And then of course our expenses are coming in, the majority of them coming in under. So yeah, I think we're on the right track here. We have been for a few years now, and just need to keep staying the course and keep working on all these fund balances and keep doing what we're doing. So obviously we're making good progress on everything here. So all right, Jan, thank you for your report. Heidi, thanks for the additional information. We'll go ahead and move on to the harbor report. This will be the quarter report, and this will be in your laydown. And I see we've got Layla online also.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good
Can you
evening.
hear me okay?
Yep, loud and clear.
Okay, so my reports are kind of boring in the summertime, but during the summer we don't have many special projects going on as we're just coordinating daily operations and kind of dealing with that. But update for the 4th of July, for the day use, we had 89 vessels. with a total of 365 passengers off of those. And I did a count at 2 in the afternoon, and as of 2 o'clock, we had 183 vessels moored. So pretty good numbers for the 4th of July. The toilets. Today we had a nice long discussion on when would be a good time to start replacing them with the new ones. And we're kind of thinking that do it in the middle of a week. Coming up here very soon, we could still have the handicap bathroom in use. So that's an upcoming project. And we got new water bottles coming soon too. Other than that, it's basically daily operations. Any questions?
Any questions for Layla? All right, looks pretty straightforward. Obviously, we see lots of stuff happening down there, lots of boats every day, so that's good to see. All the infrastructure down there has been holding up, Layla, all your water and everything.
Yep, having Stan has been a great deal. So those problems as they arise, we can put out the flames as they spark. So yep, we're holding on pretty good.
All right, sounds good.
Well,
Thanks.
thank you.
Yep, thanks for the report.
And have a good evening.
Okay, you too. Let's see. Public Works Maintenance is next. That's on page 21 of the packet.
Mr. Mayor, we do have Riley here. Riley Beldiga.
You got it right.
Yes, I've been working on it. So he was going to introduce himself and just give a little update on the report.
All right, sounds
So-
good.
Sorry. My name is Riley Beldiga. I'm the new hire for Public Works. I started in beginning of June. I'm very happy to be here. And I've been involved in a lot of the projects so far, like water turn-ons and boat launches, doing some cleaning up of the city properties. And we're starting on getting me involved in doing some of the road maintenance in parking lots. So that's exciting. And some of the projects we've completed recently would be adding that stainless hangers to the septic lift station on the power cables. We've removed a sailboat and the travel trailer from the city properties, taken them to the dump. We pumped some of the outhouses out at the airport and RV park and beach. The big boat haul out trailer, we got 2 of the 6 hydraulic cylinders rebuilt and replaced recently, so we can use that now, get that back operational. We've replaced some of the rougher looking stop signs around town, and we've installed some of the missing street signs and replaced a few of the rough looking ones as well. The pressure wash building had some issues, and we got the breaker and the coin reading machine replaced. We got the lock on the city dock gate installed so we can keep that locked when it's not in operation. And we're working on cleaning up and painting the dock cranes. I got a little bit more paint on the second one today and finished up the first one. So those are looking good. Some of the upcoming projects we have would be replacing the toilets in the Seldovia space, finishing up the boardwalk repair project, which we have started on, made a little progress towards that. We're working on safety recommendations for the AML and JIA and rewiring of the washdown building because that's a little kind of janky, trying to keep that thing up in operation. So that's all for the Public Works report. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead, Heidi.
I would just like to add on, I think this is a pretty modest report. I included a little bit more details and some more projects in the city manager's report, just because they have been so busy. They have been replacing planks on the historic boardwalk as needed. That were available. I was down there for Songs on the Slew this weekend and it was pretty rough. So we definitely need to start I'm looking at a few more grant opportunities, but maybe purchasing some boards throughout the year and replacing as we can. They've also done a really great job on cleaning up the value added building and reorganizing that piece of infrastructure. Riley is the one that he painted one of the cranes. I know you mentioned that, but it looks really good. And he's working on the other crane. We're making sure that those are maintained and up to date, and we have a crane inspection scheduled for next spring. So making sure that those are in great order. I know he mentioned that that the pressure washer was fixed and that the toilets were received for Seldovia space. So those are upcoming things. The other things that they've received are the pickup broom is here, but it needs new hooks. And they were able to order 4 new tires for the loader in FY25 at the end of the year. They came and spoke to me about needing a couple of new tires. And I know that was something that was on council's wish list, and there was still money in the budget. So we purchased 4 new tires for that loader, and they are here. So that's great. The dock is now being regularly locked, as Riley mentioned, but it's also painted and it looks really great. That gate does. And then another upcoming project is the yard across from the city storage yard, road maintenance, installing a new booster pump at the water treatment plant. So a lot going on. And just really appreciate the hard work that the crew is doing.
Yeah, Heidi, thanks for kind of bringing some of that additional stuff up. I know just, driving around and, going around town, it doesn't go unnoticed, I think, from people that are, paying attention, all the little things that are getting done from all the grounds maintenance. And then, a lot of the things you don't see what these guys are doing behind the scenes as well. But I know, like, when we talked about, simple things like starting to replace stop signs and stuff like that, painting, all that stuff goes to, basically clean up the town, beautify it. And I appreciate it. And I hope we just, some of it's small, but I hope we keep up with like the sign replacement every year. If it's another 8 or 10, we keep doing that. And pretty soon, those signs will last for some of those have probably been there for 30 years, or longer. So if we keep making an attempt and doing stuff like that every year, pretty soon we'll have them all replaced and everything will be looking new. So, and then thanks for getting all the broken things fixed and back online. And I know everybody appreciates that. So,
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead, Vivian.
Yeah, I would just like to welcome Riley, and I've heard great things about you, Riley, from your workmates. I have a question about, because a couple of people have asked me, do we have no boards on hand for the boardwalk? And we have to purchase some. We don't have any other than what we've used, the 5 or 6 boards or so that have been replaced.
We have used up all of the new boards that we had on hand, and we were trying to repurpose some of the old bridge boards, but
Right.
we're not sure if those are going to work out as they're also in pretty bad shape.
Okay, yep. Okay, thank you.
All right. Thanks for the public works report. Are you going to do the water treatment too?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I was just going to remind you guys that is on page 22. And I don't know if Riley has been up at the water treatment plant. That's also part of his duties is he's been training up there. The other thing that he's taken on a route of as well with the crew is that Allison Ryan did put in her notice and she's left the city as our groundskeeper. So he's taken on a lot of tasks in a quick order and doing well with it. But that water treatment plant report is on page 22, and I don't know if you wanted to say anything about it, Riley, but it does look like our maximum daily consumption is at 30s. Well, and that must be opposite.
Yeah.
Maximum and minimum, 37 for minimum, 57 for maximum. And if you guys have any questions or if he wants to speak on it, I'll leave it from there.
Yeah, no, obviously those two are reversed, but that looks right in line with, I think, where we should be at for summertime usage with little or no additional leaks. So that's good. All right, sounds good. Any additional questions, anyone on water? All right. Well, thanks, Riley. Appreciate your reports.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Have a good evening. And then item J4, we've got the VPSO quarterly report on page 23.
And that's just going to be a written report, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, and I know I see the comments on the ATV, UTV, safety, and I know there has been a definitely an added uptick of talking tos and discussions and a little more enforcement action on that side of things. So still have some few shenanigans going on, but I think it's gotten a lot better than what it has been. And I see the VPS, so they did get their Explorer in. Heidi, I saw that as well.
Yes, they did.
Okay. And are they getting another truck on top of that then?
Not at this time, but what they're hoping is that what we're working on is pricing out quotes to send the city's truck. It actually needs a pretty significant overhaul. The maintenance crew has done quite a bit of upgrades on it, not upgrades, sorry, quite a bit of maintenance on it, but it's needing some additional love with all the bells and whistles it has. So we're looking at sending it over and then having it come back a little bit more functional in the future for Dewey.
Okay, sounds good. All right, anyone have any questions on VPSO's report? Okay, sounds good. We'll go ahead and keep moving here. Item K, public hearings, none. Item L, unfinished business, none. Item M, new business. Item M1, resolution 26-01, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Seldovia, Alaska, awarding All Nations Community Health, DBA, Make It Reality, a one-year lease at a monthly base rent of $360.15 for Harbor Kiosk B, located on Lot 6, Block 10, Waterfront Reach Sub Number 1, and authorizing the city manager to negotiate and execute the appropriate documents. This will be found on page 24 of your packet. And Heidi, you can go ahead and give us the particulars on this.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So in speaking with Henry Kroll of All Nations Community Health about updating the lease for that space, it did expire in what would have been November 2023, December 2023. So it's been a while. They've been operating on a month to month rental base since that time, which is consistent with our FY24 and FY25 fee schedule at $350 a month. In speaking with him on his commitment moving forward, he did present a proposal for 1-year lease with an increase. He put that rental rate suggested at $385, but I believe he was thinking that was all encompassing. There are additional charges on top of the monthly base rate of electricity and sales tax, of course, that goes with it, as well as the insurance that is required annually. So those are just additional costs associated with renting that space. So I suggested, instead of doing the $385 a month, to do the CPI increase as we did for some of our other rental facilities, or facilities that are rented, and across our FY 26 budget of 2.9%, which would be 360 a month, 360 and 15 cents a month. And then that lease application for All Nations Community Health proposes that the space will be used to provide goods and services, including 3D printing of tools, toys, household items, and medical devices, performing small repairs and promoting recycling initiatives to reduce landfill waste and with proceeds supporting health research. And I would like to just make sure council is aware that Mr. Kroll is online if they have any questions.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, I was I'm surprised that I couldn't remember if that had expired, and we've just been on a straight month to month. So this will essentially get us back into a signed lease status then.
That's correct, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. All right, we'll go and open it up to council. Any questions, comments from council? Okay, I'll just go ahead and add a comment. Yeah, obviously with getting this into a lease status, I think it will be a good thing. The base rent of the 360.15, I think that's consistent with where we've been, adding the CPI and slowly getting us up to our our original goal. I think originally our budget when we had these things built was around the 500, and then we revamped that based on actual interest and where we were at. So we've obviously had 100% occupancy here now since they were built, so that's good. So I look at this more of a housekeeping issue, and definitely am in support of keeping or awarding this to All Nations Community Health, and then letting Heidi negotiate the particulars. So I'll be in support of resolution 26-01. Anyone else before we move on to public? Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to public. Liz, anyone from the public wishes to speak tonight on resolution 26-01?
I'm not seeing any hands raised, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, we'll go ahead and bring it back to council for final action on resolution 26-01.
Mr. Mayor.
Yep,
I'll
go
make-
ahead, Vivian.
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution 26-01.
I'll go ahead and second that, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, we have a motion to approve resolution 26-01 by Rojas with a second by Langbart. Any further discussion before we vote on resolution 26-01? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote on the motion to approve resolution 26-01. All those in favor, Keithley,
Aye.
Langbart,
Aye.
Barber,
Aye.
and Rojas.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 4 in the affirmative, 1 absent. Okay, resolution 26-01 is passed. Thank you. That'll take us down to item M2, resolution 26-02, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Seldovia, Alaska, awarding a request for proposals, RFP number 02-2026, City Maintenance Shop to Homer Roofing LLC, and authorizing the city manager to negotiate and execute the appropriate documents. This is going to be found on page 26 of your proposal. And Heidi, you can go ahead and share the particulars.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So actually, staff at this point is requesting a motion to postpone indefinitely. We were hoping that this proposal of they had submitted a proposal to put insulation, blue board over the existing insulation to bring up that R value, but had noted that there could be some concerns with condensation, which is something that we had previously noted because of the vapor barrier on the existing insulation, and that we had intent to remove that insulation and have new insulation installed. So this project didn't meet that, but was a interesting way to work within our budget to increase that R value. And reviewing the full details, and then we actually had some pro bono consulting done from another local community public works and maintenance department. It's just not in the best interest of the city to move forward in that direction at this time. We do have some leads on some other options, and are looking at exploring doing some of this work potentially in-house with us buying the material, and then potentially contracting with somebody to come in and do that work. So still working on it, just that it was unfortunate that the budget that we provided, that we were quoted initially when we applied for this grant application, was not adequate for actually completing the work. And so just goes to show the value in having multiple quotes. It was a fast moving proposal. So we are definitely learning as we move through this process, and we'll still continue to move forward with formulating a plan to insulate or re-insulate that space, but not through this type of project at this time.
Okay. Thanks, Heidi. Appreciate that. Yeah, I guess we'll still go through the motions and then we'll get down to final action given the comments by the city manager. Any additional comments or questions from council? Okay. Public, anyone from the public, Liz, that wishes to weigh in on resolution 26-02?
I'm not seeing any hands at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, we'll go ahead and bring it back to council for final action. And based on the comments of the city manager, I would look for a motion to go ahead and postpone this indefinitely.
Mr. Mayor.
Ooh.
Yep, go ahead, Vivian.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that resolution 26-02 is postponed.
Okay.
I'll go ahead and second this.
Okay, and we have a motion from Vivian to go ahead and postpone indefinitely for resolution 26-02 with a second by Langbart. Any further discussion before we vote? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote on the motion to postpone indefinitely resolution 26-02. All those in favor, Keithley,
Aye.
Langbart,
Aye.
Barber,
Aye.
and Rojas.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes with 4 in the affirmative, 1 absent. So that'll put resolution 26-02 postponed indefinitely. All right, final action or final item tonight, item M3. This was removed from the consent agenda and pulled down. This is going to be ordinance 26-01, which was an ordinance to the City Council of the City of Seldovia, Alaska, amending Seldovia Municipal Code Section 3.08.010 to adjust the City of Seldovia sales tax rate subject to approval of the City of Seldovia voters. If Kenai Peninsula Borough voters approve the borough's proposed seasonal tax rate structure. We tried to have a work session on this prior to this meeting. Unfortunately, we did not have a quorum and couldn't do that. So I thought it would be a better idea to at least pull this off, get everyone's initial thoughts, comments on this prior, and go ahead and get it introduced tonight. And then see what happens here at the next Borough Assembly meeting. So this will be item M3, and then Heidi, or Liz, if you want to give us the rundown on this, that'd be great.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this came about due to a recent ordinance that was introduced at the Kenai Peninsula Borough Assembly level to do a seasonal tax rate in the Kenai Peninsula Borough. Currently, they have a year-round 3% sales tax rate. And this proposal would increase the summer sales tax to 4% and reduce the winter sales tax by 2%. This recommendation did come out of the Tourism Industry Working Group. It was one of 4 recommendations. Kenai Peninsula Assembly member Tyson Cox also introduced a resolution at their last meeting to postpone this ordinance and to allow time for a working group to evaluate if there were other or any unintended consequences or concerns that we're coming across because they are using languages like net neutral. And it's based on studies out of this initial working group. So just asking for more information or more time to move through this process. I did speak in support of the resolution on behalf of the city of Seldovia and mentioned that I do believe that there are unintended consequences from this proposal. One being that the city of Seldovia's tax rate would increase from 9.5% to 10.5%, which is a burden that potentially the city of Seldovia and its residents and visitors may or may not be able to support. So just making sure that they're aware that there could be other consequences from passing this. You will see their ordinance on page 12. And then you can see the memorandum from it was introduced from from Kelly Cooper, the Assembly Vice President, and Peter Machiki, Mayor of Kenai Peninsula Borough Assembly. It does seem like there's a lot of value and the good that could happen from this proposal across the Kenai Peninsula Borough. Not disputing that with potential mill rate. They're saying a mill rate decrease may happen, but there are some other proposals that do counter that, or some other ordinances that are in discussion, like increasing the oh gosh, why did I just blank? The not senior, but
The residential
yes.
tax exemption at the borough level from
Yes.
50 to 75,000.
Thank you. Those words were escaping me. So there are some other things that are in the process as well that may or may not affect the mill rate. But overall, we do know that if this went into effect, if they pass that ordinance 20, what is the number for that? Sorry, let me grab that here. Ordinance 2515. That'll be discussed and as a public hearing on their August 5th meeting. If that passes, it will go on to the ballot and then we'll go to the voter this October. So trying to make sure that we meet the timeline for the ballot if council wants to counter that and have a buffer in there so that 10.5% doesn't occur, which is this discussion tonight. That needs to be passed by August 15th in order to make it onto the ballot. So this discussion hopefully will allow you guys to talk about through those scenarios, what that looks like. If you do want to have a proposition on the ballot, introduce any direction chosen, and then we'll have a public hearing scheduled for the August 11th meeting, which would be that's the next meeting, and it happens to be after the next Kenai Peninsula Borough Assembly scheduled meeting, as I said, on August 5th. So we would know more at that August 11th meeting on whether that passes or not. It does seem like at this time that there was some support for it. So they did move to they introduced it, but they moved to postpone that resolution that would postpone the ordinance in general to prior to the discussion on the public hearing on the 5th. So if that resolution went through, that ordinance would be postponed. Otherwise, they'll go to public hearing and we'll see what happens. Sorry, that was a lot of information. It was confusing. Let me know. I can try to reiterate. But to the main points on page 8 of your packet is this ordinance 26-1. I did speak with legal about it because I was curious on if there was a way to introduce an ordinance that was contingent on another piece of legislation or on an outside fact. And that is something that is commonly done with bonds. This ordinance is contingent on whether the Kenai Peninsula Borough, or the proposition would be contingent on whether the Kenai Peninsula Borough voters approve the borough's proposed seasonal tax. So that puts in a few buffers if the council does move forward. If the assembly moves forward and the council moves forward and these all end up on the ballot and the voters don't pass, the borough voters don't pass the sales tax change, then the city of Seldovia's proposition automatically doesn't pass. It's not, it becomes null and void. So, but if both ordinances pass and the sales tax change for the Kenai Peninsula Borough changes, then the voters, if this is all dependent on the voters, vote to change the city of Seldovia sales tax, then potentially we would be at 9.5%. Still in the summer, it's just shifting that revenue from the city of Seldovia to the Kenai Peninsula Borough, which is about a $50,000 loss. And as you guys know, that's about a greater payment. It's just shy, like 1,000 something and change shy of a greater payment. So it's a significant hit. It's half of your 2% that was increased in 2022. So basically cutting that in half and giving the other half to the Kenai Peninsula Borough. That's option 1, is to decrease the city's summer sales tax rate from 6.5% to 5.5%. And then option 2, realizing that $45,000 to $50,000 loss would accompany that, was another just option throwing out there if the city council wanted to be able to collect some of that revenue or offset some of that revenue loss. That would decrease the summer sales tax from 6.5% to 5.5% and increase the winter sales tax rate from 2% to 3%. So completely shifting what are offsetting what the borough is doing. So the borough would be 2% in the winter and the city would be 3%. We'd still hold at 5%. The borough would be 4% in the summer. The city would be at 5.5%. And we'd still be at 9.5%, which it's still a loss of about 21 to 24,000. So still, and actually that's I did that opposite. So it should be revenues under option 2 is a decrease. Yeah. So I'll check the math on that real quick. I think it's the 21 to 24 is still the loss. 45 to 55 minus 24. So it'd still be a decrease of 26. Sorry about that. Let me just do that math real quick. Grab my calculator, make sure I'm doing it right. So that's the discussion for council. If you guys don't want to move forward with a piece of legislation, this can die on the table. But knowing that the timeline was short, I wanted to have this opportunity for you guys to have this discussion and provide any input or make any decisions that you may want to make. These are just 2 options. If there are other things you guys want to consider, as long as there's in short order, we can work through that with you as well. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate your opening statement there. We'll go ahead and open it up to council for your initial thoughts on this. And remember, tonight, this is just going to be an introduction, so not taking any kind of final action on this, but wanting to see what if we're headed down the right path or what thoughts you guys have on the options that are laid out on the table here.
And Mr. Mayor, I do want to just say that that is a decrease of 21,000 to 26,000, not 24, on that line 53.
Listen. And option,
His mic's not working at all.
Muffled.
Muffled, jumbled.
can you hear me now?
Perfect.
So, Heidi, in your opinion, if you had to pick an option, what you'd think would be the best for the community, knowing that you have all the information and numbers to work with, what would you do?
Through the mayor, thank you for that question. So I do think that a $45,000 to $50,000 loss right now would be a pretty significant hit. The city is making pretty great gains at some of their different infrastructure needs, being able to pay off that piece of equipment that was purchased. Do I think we'll always be in this place? No. And I think that we could make adjustments moving forward and be okay if we had that 45,000 to 50,000 loss. We're just, it puts us back into a place where instead of being progressive and moving forward with the goals and priorities that the council set, we're a lot more tightly bound and we don't have a lot of room for any unanticipated expenses. So the option 2 does provide a little bit of that revenue back. I do appreciate that comes down to the winter residents on the backs of about 240 people. So I have that understanding and I would love to hear the council's take on it. But I do think that this is a pretty big loss for the community, and it's, you can say 50,000, and for the assembly or for other communities, that's not that big of a deal. But for us, that's a piece of equipment, a payment on a piece of equipment. It's some road maintenance in the summer. It's being able to take care of our regular daily needs. Yes, that's just for 1 year.
So it's the future that on a 5-year deal, you're talking $250,000.
Correct.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, if Jack's done.
Yeah, go ahead, Vivian.
Yeah, tough situation. It'd be great if there was another alternative to get around this ordinance that may pass to the voters. I'm not sure what the deal is, if there's a way to get around it. But looking at option 1 and option 2, as our city manager said, for us to take a hit of $50,000 is huge for our budget. It does, in option 2, it does hit the summer traffic. And that's what this whole ordinance is all about with the borough, is getting that tourist traffic. But in the long run for Seldovia, for our budget, option 2, where we'll take the hit of $21,000 to $26,000, half of that amount, is probably something that, if of the lesser of the two evils, I guess to say, would be option 2 if we have to go that way. But I am sad to see that, as our city manager did note, that 3% would go on the winter residents, long-term, year-round residents. So it's a tough situation. Unless there's another option that somebody has out there, how we get around this. To me, option 2 is probably the least of the two evils. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Vivian.
Mr. Mayor. Yes, I agree. I've been running this through my head as I can since Heidi brought it up a while ago that we might be faced with this unfortunate situation. Because I was really hopeful we'd be in a different spot of being able to look at how we can start to, utilize the funds that we're bringing in, as we have been for these reserve funds and keeping ourselves ahead in the city, but also then start to look at how we could adjust things so that year-round residents and businesses are not affected as much, and how we could target more the tourism. And the fact that the borough kind of beat us to that punch on the on it a little more is unfortunate. So my brain has been kind of thinking of how we can prioritize incentivizing somehow those businesses that are run out of Seldovia and the year-round residents, so that, the fact that it's out of our control if the borough raises theirs, and we don't want to lose our funds as a city, or at least all, the entirety. And Heidi, is it possible for us to say that, like, the utilities are not taxed? I've kind of talked to some different residents and tried to get ideas. And that was one thing that was brought up, that is, it's not huge, but it's something, because all of us that, live here year round or run a business in the summer, the fact that everything is hit with this sales tax is what really hits us hard, and it all adds up in the end. But that is one thing that I didn't know if the city had the ability to say, if you're a year-round resident, or if you're on a commercial rate, that we could waive the sales tax, or if we can't do that because of the borough side of things with sales tax.
Through the mayor, I'm not sure. Oh, sorry. Through the mayor, I'm not sure at this time. I would have to do some research on that, on whether that was possible. Because I do know that borough influences what we can and can't tax, and they collect it for us.
Okay.
But I could look into that.
Yeah. Okay. And not that I want to make our sales tax collection any more complicated than it is, but that was kind of the only thing that had popped out to me as far as an incentivized way of, helping that increase in the tax potentially not hit some of those parties as hard, that we're trying to encourage people to have businesses here and live here year round. And that makes it harder. And so, and I also think that maybe option 2 might be better, but I think it's hard for me to even really pick one right now.
Through the mayor, I did want to bring up one more thing. I meant to bring it up initially, is while there is option 1 and option 2, there's also the option to present both and let the voter choose.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's not a bad idea. Because I don't know, I know for myself, because both options, neither one is better all around. I have a hard time choosing one over the other if we're forced to choose one.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, I missed what Heidi said.
Through the mayor, I was saying that the third option could be choosing both and putting both to the voters and letting them decide if they are comfortable taking, a $50,000 loss, or $45,000 to $50,000 loss, or a $21,000 to $26,000 loss.
Yeah, okay, I thought that's the way it was going to go on the ballot. And with that being said, a lot of information would have to go out to the public, educate them what we're talking about, and what the hit would be to the city.
Yes.
It's a lot of education needs to go out. But okay, I was mistaken that I thought both options would be at the ballot box.
No, the discussion is whether you guys want to pick an option 1 or pick option 2, or to have them both.
Mm-hmm.
Or something else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just chime in real quick here. So yeah, I mean, for me, thinking about, this is kind of undoing a bunch of good things that we have going. This affects us more than anyone on any community on the Kenai Peninsula Borough. because of the way our tax structure is formulated. It undoes half of what we did a couple years ago. That's put us in such a good position we are now. If you're a Kenai Peninsula Borough Assembly person, this is clearly a no-brainer. And if I was on there, I would vote yes. I mean, it shifts the tax burden to the segment that obviously the tourism industry, where you're getting the most influx of people and the biggest amount of usage to the public services in the summer months and stuff. It shifts the tax burden to from a straight 3 to an additional % on that sector, removes the % in the wintertime on the locals, which is exactly what we do, and I like that. So yeah, it's a no-brainer, right, if you're on the assembly. But for us as councilmen, women, and mayor, looking at our community and our impacts, it undoes everything we've done. So it's not a good deal for us. It raises about $4 million for the borough. I think a bunch of that will go to cover, a lot of those costs that are, being impacted at the borough level. Again, very little of that is over on this side of the bay. Most of it's on Central Peninsula. If you look at Soldotna, Kenai, Nikiski, Nanilchik, they only have the Kenai Peninsula Borough sales tax. They have 0 taxes. Homer's got the year-round 4.85 plus the 3 for 7.85. Seward has 4 plus 3 is 7, and then obviously we have our structure of summer and winter. To put us at 10.5, that's not ideal in my mind at all. And I certainly would not be in favor of voting to put more of a burden on the locals in the wintertime. So if there were going to be options, go on a ballot. If it does pass, I would say give the voters the entire package to agree on, whether they want to see a 10.5, keep it at 9.5, or increase the winter. So I would like to see both options with all the options on there, and then kind of a pick or choose, if it goes on our ballot, in my mind. So that's where I'm at. And again, too, I know out of the 4 million, some of that's going to go. I don't know if additional is going to go for education, or for part of that is for the Kenai Peninsula Borough's matching funds, but likely we will see very little or none of that over in Seldovia. So we know where we're at and where we're headed, and it's not good right now on that front either. So
Mr. Mayor,
those are my thoughts. Yep.
all of the sales tax goes to education.
What's that?
All of the sales tax goes to education. All of the borough sales tax.
All of the additional sales tax?
Yep, it would all go to, and listening to those meetings to the borough, that all of sales tax is allocated to education. So that the ordinance was presented and the discussion was presented to increase the sales tax, because right now it was all sales tax, and what was it, like 30% of property tax goes to education. So in this way, they're bringing in more, that 4 million additional for education, in order to be able to fund education more fully off of sales tax. And then if there is a decrease, in the mill rate moving forward, that's not necessarily as impacted. But of course, it won't meet, as Mayor Chippy said, it won't meet all of the education funds needed. So some property tax will still go towards education, but all of the sales tax goes to education.
Okay. All right. I read that wrong then. Okay.
And if you guys would like, we could also write a letter in support of postponing this ordinance, in support of Assemblymember Cox's resolution, or write a letter just general to the ordinance. Mr. Mayor, you had some great language right there that I wrote down about it affecting our municipality more than any other, and undoing that good work we've been doing for the last couple of years in half. And that it does mostly cover the Central Peninsula, who does not have that standalone sales tax at this time. So that's another option as well, as if you guys want to write a letter from the city or have a special meeting in the future and have a resolution on either piece of legislation, that resolution or the ordinance, we can do that as well.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead, Vivian.
Yeah, I think that's a really good choice. We should either send a resolution and just say just what we had just repeated, how important it is, what the success we've taken to get our budget in hand, and that what a setback this would be. So I would be in favor of a resolution being sent up about this, how it would affect Seldovia, and seeing how it's the only one of the communities that has this issue on the Kenai. That's kind of a big step. You know, they need to know that. I know in Homer, they have I think a winter and a summer, no tax on food items. Is that correct? I mean, that's something that we could do, and that not just food that you buy at the store, not ready-made food. And is that something I'm remembering incorrectly about Homer? But that
No,
yeah.
that's a borough sales, that's a borough sales tax cut, is that there's no sales tax on non-prepared foods in the winter.
Okay, that's already in effect with the borough.
Yes.
Okay, so is that something we would do to lighten the hit on Seldovia? Just throwing out an idea. But yeah, I'm in favor of that resolution going up to the assembly.
Mr. Mayor,
Yep, go ahead, Jack.
what I'm wondering, in state of Washington, that you had a tax exempt card, and is there any way that the residents could either have a reduction or a tax exempt, or the higher rate in the summer? Basically, you're asking the tourist people to pay the additional tax rate, which I think most people that are tourists are traveling, they don't look at that as a deterrent, whether they come here or not. They already plan on spending a certain amount of money. Not a big deal for them, but it's a lot for us. But is there anything in a tax exempt for a resident here that would only pay a percentage or a reduced rate? I'm in the state of Washington because I've used a tax exempt card for different things, and I don't know. So the way you can structure that to apply for this, but
Yeah, I'm not familiar with anything like that, but Heidi, unless you know of something.
I'm not, but I can look into it. I just know that our timing is pretty short right now. Even to do that resolution would require a special meeting. So just making sure that we remain cognizant of our short timeline.
Yeah, I think just thinking through this, I mean, yeah, we can write a letter or do a resolution, that's fine. But I think at the end of the day, the Borough Assembly is going to do what the Borough Assembly does. And I'm fine with being, the squeaky wheel in this, because obviously this, again, like I said, it affects us more than anyone else. But if we had to keep the ball rolling here, I think I agree with Ashley and Vivian, in terms of letting the voters keep both of our, both the options on the ballot, where option 1 and option 2, where the voters got to choose the final outcome of this. So, and not us having to limit and pick, the lesser of it's all bad. So in my mind, none of these are good, but so yeah, you might as well just let the voters just decide which one they want if it's going to be forced down our throat. Unless we can, yeah, I can't think of anything different right now. I mean, if we move to introduce this to keep the ball rolling as is, and that would give us a week or two here. If someone comes up with something crafty and we want to introduce an amendment or something when we go to discuss this and ultimately vote on its final passage, we could go that route. But yeah, we'd have to do everyone would have to put on their thinking caps here pretty quick to come up with a better mousetrap than what's presented here. Anyone else have any thoughts on that?
I could add one comment, Mr. Mayor. That August 5th borough meeting is in Homer. So if people are around or interested, that is probably more of an available option to attend that borough assembly meeting where they'll be having testimony on the resolution to introduce.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Sounds to me like you or Heidi need to attend.
We can do that, Mr. Mayor.
That's a free overnight vacation in Homer for you guys. You don't even have to come back on the late ferry.
We can do that, Mr. Mayor.
Might
And
have to go out for a drink after that as well. All right. Well, yeah. I mean, I'm not hearing anything in terms of I mean, I think if we're gonna do this, then we look for a motion to introduce and then have, instead of picking one of the options, go with both options A and B for now on there, unless I'm hearing anybody in opposition to that. And then truly, if someone comes up with something, or Heidi or Liz, if you guys think of a different way we could restructure this, then, and it makes sense, then we go ahead and, get something out in front of this prior to the next meeting to talk about at that meeting, and then possibly come up with some sort of amendment if it makes sense. All right. As long as there's no opposition to that, and then let's see, is there anyone from the public, Liz, that wants to weigh in on item M3?
Not seeing any, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Then we would need a motion to introduce ordinance 26-01 as written, that has both options A and B on the ballot, or included in the language for now. Heidi, does that work with you?
yes, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Yep. Go ahead, Vivian.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we introduce or adopt.
Yep. Introduce.
Okay, introduce ordinance 26-01, including option 1 and option 2 in the ordinance.
Perfect. Do we have a second?
I will
I second.
second this.
Okay. We have a motion by Rojas to introduce ordinance 26-01 to include both options A and B, or 1 and 2 on the as part of the language. It was second by Langbart. Any further discussion on the motion to introduce ordinance 26-01 before we vote? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote on the motion to introduce ordinance 26-01 as written, and to include both options. I can't remember if they're A and B or 1 and 2, but both options in the language. All those in favor: Keithley,
Aye.
Langbart,
Aye.
Barber,
Aye.
Rojas.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 4 in the affirmative, 1 absent. All right, well, thanks you guys for that. Yeah, it's not ideal, but it keeps the ball rolling here and gives us a little bit of time to come up with something else if we're going to do it. If the Borough Assembly does approve this, and then obviously if the voters approve it. So,
And Mr. Mayor,
yep, go ahead.
do you guys want to direct staff to write a letter for public comment, a written public comment for either the resolution or the ordinance or both? And
Yes.
then to attend that meeting in Homer.
Good call. Both and all of the above, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, appreciate that. All right, that concludes our legislative action tonight. Takes us to item N, our city manager's report, and this will be in the laydown.
It's been a busy month. I'm so sorry, guys. It's like 3 pages of new information. So I will try to just get through it, and please let me know if you have any questions. First off, I did send out an email letting you guys know that a preliminary decision has been issued for a 55-year lease with the city of Seldovia for the Jackloff Bay Uplands. That's that 2.1 acre parcel that was split from the current lease that's being renewed. That public comment period ends on that preliminary decision for sorry, I got tongue-tied there. That public comment period ends on August 7th. After the public comment period ends, a final decision can be issued, and if approved, an entry authorization will be issued as well, or while we work through the appraisal and the lease. So that is moving forward. We still haven't had a lot of success in speaking with DOT about partnering on the cleanup of that area, but we'll continue to press and see if we can make some headway now that we have this preliminary decision and things appear to be moving forward. The replacement project is also moving forward. We have received the last of the local and federal permits that were required. The environmental assessment is being drafted. We were hoping to have it done last week, but it's been delayed just a little bit. So hopefully that draft will be available by the end of this week. You can review it, and then it will be sent to MARAD as well as or along with the draft grant agreement. And then once approved, again, that draft agreement can be executed, and we can issue a request for proposals for the construction project. So that is good news. We're getting down to the finish line. Also, our finance officer would really appreciate it if we started getting reimbursements for all of these pre-award costs, because we're at about $250,000 that's been spent right now out of pocket for this process. And we had an authorization of $316,000 that's supposed to be reimbursable. So moving along and hoping to get those funds back and the project off the ground. Additionally, we did receive that Denali Commission grant for the matching funds for that project of $482,000. The grant paperwork has been signed and the funds are now available. So that is great to know that we should be able to wholly complete that project. If we're not, we also potentially have another $482,000 coming from our congressional direct spending requests that we did through Lisa Murkowski's office. Senator Murkowski did put that forward, and it passed, went through committee, and is now in the FY26 appropriations bill. So if that bill passes on the federal level, then potentially we could be awarded an additional $482,000 for the project. And that will be great timing because, as we know, with the raw water transmission line, or it could be great timing, it can take a couple of years or a while for those funds to come through. So if there are any things that are not covered or last minute, it might be nice just to have that option if it becomes available. And speaking of, our FY23 CDS request for $22,000 in road materials has been formally transferred to the Denali Commission and will be made available once that grant agreement is signed. We're making progress with Denali Commission on both that Jackloff Bay matching funds and the $22,000 for road material. So that's exciting to make progress with them. The multipurpose building generation project, we did receive the generator. It's here, and Seldovia will begin issuing a request for quotes for the installation of that generator with the new automatic transfer switch here, hopefully in short order. And the raw water transmission line is stalled out right now on the RFP language. It had to be approved. That solicitation had to be approved by the EPA. They did come back with a few notes. We fixed it, and we're just working through making sure to finalize that before we can issue that, hopefully by the end of this week. FY24 CDBG grant award for the fuel retail and distribution facility improvements had some pre-award and environmental review paperwork that was required. I did submit it all. They did confirm that they've received it, and they're just in the review process there at the agency, as well as finalizing that grant agreement paperwork. So hopefully that comes through here in the next couple weeks as well. We did receive a pedestrian counter from DOT that we need to get installed. We're looking at a good place that will capture the majority of the pedestrian and bicycle traffic, but not capture cars, which is kind of difficult in this community. I'm thinking maybe like in front of Lollipop Park or the Harbor Master area. We'll try out a few places and see where it works best. The DOT will be on the phone with us as we do that installation, and they have a great app that captures that data. And we're hoping that we can then utilize that data to work on TAP or CTP projects placed in the STIP, that statewide transportation plan, and be able to move forward with the discussion on why pedestrian safety is such a concern in this community. From data from DOT, we know we have about 500 cars a day average of traffic averaging on Main Street. So it would be great to have that number for pedestrians as well, and be able to compare how congested this road is summer through winter with both types of traffic. So that's the data we're working on, because that really helps when you start talking about trying to fund projects, is having that concrete data. We also have a request out with them to do that road safety visit, which they're not traveling right now, to partner with us on the Main Street stormwater inlets. And then, as I mentioned, the Jackalope Bay uplands cleanup. So hopefully to continue that conversation. The traffic safety guy for the pedestrian traffic was very communicative and willing. So hoping we can continue. Another request that we did receive during the comprehensive plan update and meeting that also came up in 2017 when there was that was the most recent traffic study, was the installation of a traffic mirror on the corner of Main Street. So that is something else that we can continue to bring up and see if that's possible to install, because we know that corner, down there, kind of across from the liquor store by Parents Park, is pretty precarious corner for people. KB NER was just presenting tonight, but they also put out a press release that they did an initial blue mussel test looking for those HAB toxins that they're expecting in the bay, that are connected to the marine animals that have been dying recently. And their initial blue mussel test results did not detect that HAB toxins in Kachemak Bay. I didn't do a deep dive, but I did send it to you, and I put it in this packet. So if you have any questions, I'm sure you can reach out to them or let me know, and I can reach out and look at a little bit further into that. They also spoke about the National Coastal Resilience Fund project that we submitted in partnership with them and their partners. And so I won't go in deep dive into that, but definitely welcome to any questions. Senator Murkowski's mobile office will be here on August 7th. So they will be set up in front of the post office. If anybody wants to meet with Senator Murkowski's staffers and just say hi and have a discussion with them, they'll be here hoping to speak with their constituents. They'll also be meeting with some of the organizations one-on-one. I know I will be meeting with them when I get here, just checking in and giving updates on where Seldovia is. But that is a great opportunity to connect with the senator. So look forward to that on August 7th. Our AML grant writing services continue. They are working on a few projects for us, looking for funding for the dam repairs, which you will see the draft periodic safety inspection was sent to you. It's very eye-opening to see what's happening at that dam. It's not critical yet, but there are definitely repairs that need to be done. It is listed as poor condition, poor or fair. Double check me on that one. And needs some love. So we have AML looking for any opportunities because that's a pretty hard one right now to fund. And then they did let me know that there is a rural tribal assistance grant coming up, and that's transportation focused. So they're preparing two proposals, one for the improvements to the historic boardwalk, and then also a planning grant for the harbor waterfront boardwalk. So hopefully that's a great direction for the city. And if you guys have any opinions or ideas or would like to swap that focus around, please let me know. I did not note in here, and I should have, that our CIP updates starts next month. So we're gonna put out a call out for projects on August 1st from the community, and then start those discussions of new projects or updates to the CIP, as well as what's been going on and what council's focus and priorities are, and that harbor waterfront boardwalk priority level and historic boardwalk priority level and all the other projects. So that's a great way to have feedback, knowing that this grant writing opportunity is available at least this year and maybe for future years to look at those priorities. And maybe that's something that we should include as a discussion really on which projects to focus on, wanting to give them the opportunity to look for several different types of avenues of projects, but maybe having, that influence and focus from the council of where you guys want to go with upcoming grants for projects. So keep that in mind. Seldovia road safety, it was in the BPSO report that we're working on educating and reminding citizens of road safety regulations. We'll also be working on a draft ordinance, updating language for our vehicles that was consistent with the state of Alaska and other municipalities. City Clerk Liz Diamond has graciously taken that on, and we look forward to seeing that come up here in the future. She's also posted an animal ordinance awareness per the suggestion of VPSOs. Again, reminding the community of what Seldovia's animal ordinances are. And I know that they've been getting some calls on that, and then making sure that they follow up with citizens regarding what that expectation is as well for animals in Seldovia. Comprehensive plan update. We did have a community meeting that was hosted by Alaska Municipal League on July 9th. It seemed we had 25 people on the sign up list, but I swear I counted and there was over 30 at one point. So maybe not everybody signed up, but it seemed fairly well attended. It was an open format, so people got to have a chance to have a snack and walk around and fill out the different elements. There were each element: housing, transportation, land use. What am I forgetting here? Economy, environment, and human resources were all the elements had boards that were put up on the walls with questions underneath to spark input. And I've had pretty good attendance at the meeting overall and pretty good input provided by people attending. I did have a council member ask me what the makeup of those members who attended. So in doing off of that 25 people who signed in, 3 were from outside city limits, 2 of those were seasonal, and 1 was year round. And 22 of the attendees were from inside city limits, 17 year round and 5 seasonal. So it seemed like it was a pretty good mix of the community overall. We also posted those questions on the city Facebook page because we had a few people who were interested in being able to provide a comment outside of the meeting. Haven't received any of those comments back, but that opportunity is out there if people want to make an additional comment or add any comments in for this part of the update. We will share those comments with the Planning Commission at the August 6th meeting, and they are being incorporated into a draft of the plan that's scheduled for that initial review by the Planning Commission on September 3rd, and then it will come to council. So just moving forward and making progress on where we're at. We'll probably also end up having an additional discussion just on land use, because there were some, as we know, through recent discussion and activity, there are some conflicting views. So just having a little bit more of a discussion and figuring out how to indicate that in the plan moving forward. The Seldovia Planning Commission is also working through the topographical impacts in the building permit process, as has been brought forward to council before and then was referred back to the Seldovia Planning Commission. They worked through a draft abatement ordinance, and then the notes and direction that the city council provided on the commercial business district ordinance that was referred back to the Planning Commission. So those draft ordinances are both ready to go. If there is a moment that council has, I know Summer's busy, to get together and have a work session and then either, provide direction on which way you want to go, or if you want to introduce, and we can move forward on both of those pieces of legislation. I'm hoping that maybe everybody would have Monday, August 4th available. So please let us know if you do, so that we can continue making progress on these. And then upcoming business includes a draft ordinance for administrative hearing process and a draft ordinance for communication towers that came out of recent discussion with the Planning Commission. And City Clerk Diamond continues to work on website updates, expanding that information regarding planning and permits. So we're excited to see that come about. A KPBSD pool update. The KPBSD school board did pass their budget on July 7th. And that budget included cutting the Susan B. English and Inilchik school pools. Representatives from the city, Seldovia Recreational Service Area, and Parent Advisory Committee have been working with the school district and borough to find a short-term solution for the year. And we think we're getting somewhat close, but there's a gap in the budget. We're looking at about $135,000 a year to fund that pool, with the initial estimates that we received from the borough. From the district, and we have potentially about 90,000 in funding. That does include 32,000 from the district from their 710 account. As long as that can accompany the pool, move with it, which the district was thinking was possible. So trying to work through that, started some initial fundraising. The city of Seldovia is holding that donation account at this point until we can figure out whether that's going to be a borough-run entity with borough employees or city-run entity with city employees, due to this relationship that we have with the borough right now, where the city operates and maintains the Sea Otter Community Center. So through the Seldovia Recreational Service Area. So it could be similar to that, or it could be that the borough wants to take that on and run that through their organization. We're waiting for the answer on that. Additionally, we also received an email this morning from our Assembly member Willie Dunn, and him and Assemblymember Johnson will be introducing an ordinance at the August 6th Assembly meeting, de-obligating $200,000 in maintenance funds and transferring them to school operations in an effort to support reopening both pools. As you may know, the borough cannot dictate how the district spends those funds that are provided from the borough. So it is in the ordinance and it's in the memo, and there have discussions, that this would be in good faith, that 200,000 would go to the pools and they would be able to be reopened just as the other pools are able to continue until we can get to that discussion on the long-term solution. So it's a great opportunity to see us be able to continue to operate as we move forward. But we're not sure, it'll depend, of course, on the assembly and whether they pass that or not. So that introduction on August 5th and public hearing on August 19th. And then if it does passes, it depends on the district following through and obligating those funds or appropriating those funds to the pools. So still a lot of things up in the air, but it's a potential pathway forward. And if you guys have any comments on that, please let me know. Otherwise, moving forward, the state senior meals grant, you'll be happy to hear that we did receive it. It was hanging out there for quite a while. We were awarded $42,340, which was $7,890 less than we requested. And they have told us that another pot of money may be coming that could be available here in the future that they're just trying to work out the process for. But even though this was less than we requested, in working through the budget with Finance Officer Yeager, we're pretty confident that we can make this work, because we also have the 11,000 from the borough and donations that we receive and some federal pass through. So that should make the senior meals program whole, and be able to continue on with that vital program. Seldovia Fire and EMS repeater, I gave you guys an update at the June meeting that the repeater had died, the existing repeater. It's an old piece of infrastructure that is no longer being made as of 2017 and no longer being serviced as 2021. At least that's what we were told. They did have an option to repair it. And the city went ahead and agreed to that while we were waiting for an executive board meeting. It's about $2,500. I knew the council had spoken in court at the June 16th meeting about making sure this infrastructure updated. So we were able to utilize some of the funds from the FY25 budget that were remaining for fire and EMS to make the repair to that existing repeater. And then the executive board held a meeting July 23rd, so last week, and discussed purchasing a new repeater. They did make that, they did approve that additional expense of up to $15,000 out of their budget for that purchase. And we have been in contact with Procom Sense and are working through that process to purchase that new repeater. The one thing it doesn't include, there's a few different options that we're talking about that could upgrade communication system in Seldovia. The repeater was a necessary move, as well as there was discussion about getting off of the Zetron, which is the phone system that Homer dispatch calls. The phone rings through, and then dispatch over here is able to get that dispatch message. So it does go through a phone. It has to ring. It takes a few seconds away from the calls. But more than that, it's an antiquated form of technology. So the other part that was approved with the new repeater is also to install a radio at Homer Dispatch and to upgrade their tower with an antenna that would allow Homer Dispatch to directly radio in and dispatch out on, or do an initial dispatch for a call, and then our dispatchers would still pick it up like normal and run the call, but it's just streamlining that piece of communication. So those were two big things that needed to happen. The third option was also to purchase a consulate for an ALMR bridge, which would allow same thing. It would be a radio, which would be the control station on the Homer side, with an open channel that would allow the city radios to be able to talk to the ALMR radios within short range. This is still something I think there's a desire for, but the budget for it is significantly higher. And there is a chance that the city could be instead, or the department could be instead receiving some ALMR radios. And if we receive ALMR radios and we're switching over, then we no longer need that bridge. So holding off until we receive notice of whether that funding is coming through or not from the firefighters grant. So just on hold a little bit, but definitely making progress overall on our communication system for Seldovia Fire and EMS, and making sure that you guys are aware of that. Additionally, the city has scheduled a long overdue cemetery work party for Thursday, July 31st, starting at 1 p.m. So if anybody wants to come out and weed whack, because that's where we're at, it's so thick in there. We're going to be chainsawing through it. No, not really. But we're definitely going to be sawing through it with some weed whackers. There's been some work done, but it's getting down to the areas that are a little bit more difficult and a little bit more difficult terrain. So we have a group of people signed on that want to help out, and we'll be there with tools and staff to work on this project. But definitely encourage anybody with an interest and willingness to come out and join us. Again, 1 p.m. on Thursday, July 31st. So that's this week. Speaking of work parties, Seldovia Village Tribe had engaged with a group early in July to complete trail and property clearing projects in the area. And one project they selected was the alder clearing at Lake Susan, Mr. Mayor. I don't know if you've seen it. I know it's something you were interested in. I think they took about 4 truckloads out of alders from that area, and it looks really nice. So definitely go check it out. I'm sure there's more work to be done, but it's a good start. I won't go over the Public Works update because we've already discussed it. Did want to let you know that the Homer Electric Association is moving forward with replacing one of their generators. That project starts on August 2nd. They will utilize a portion of the Church Beach boat launch ramp property to stage equipment, and will begin work after that. It's scheduled to go through mid-September. They did request that the city of Seldovia provide regular pumping service of their porta potty. They're bringing a porta potty over and are hoping for weekly pumping, which we have agreed to. And so we'll move forward and see how that goes, especially with our new lift station pumps, but should be good. And they are in good working order. If you haven't been by the city office recently, that city awning roof project is finally completed. It was waiting on a primer and paint job. It has done. It's a bright blue, which is fascinating because the white of the primer really softened it up, and then the blue went on and made it pop. But it still looks good. I may have liked the softer white better, but this is where we're at. So if you come down, it looks really nice. Mark Janes completed that, and give him a big thank you. It was needed. Quick update on the tsunami warning in case you guys wanted to have a little bit more information on that. There was a tsunami warning on July 16th at 12:43 p.m. We did stand up the evacuation shelter. This is a necessity anytime a warning goes off, regardless of the validity of the warning, because we do have people they're listening and following instructions and doing what they should, and so they come to the shelter. We had approximately 60 plus people that evacuated and showed up at the school. We did move emergency vehicles and heavy equipment. That I was not going to request that, but the crew on their own stepped up, organized it, moved everything. And afterwards, I'm talking with them, they said it was just good practice. So they moved everything up and they moved everything back. It went really smooth on that end. One of the hiccups that happened, and we've been in discussion with the borough since about whether that worked or didn't work, was that the KBB Office of Emergency Management did not initiate their sirens, which seemed to work well for me at the evacuation shelter, because they did share a message with the communities and then across their KPB alerts that they were holding off on initiating that siren to confirm validity of the warning. So I was able to use that message to share with the people who had evacuated and come to the shelter and said, I know you got this message on your phone with the location of this event. We have hours before anything would hit us. And we have a local authority who we follow who is waiting to confirm whether this is going to be an event or not. If it is, you're going to hear this siren go off on this pole here at the school. If not, you will hear an all clear. So that seemed to be able to give people a little bit of breathing room, time to relax. It wasn't an immediate danger. It was helpful to know that there was another level of protocols that they hadn't heard yet. And I even had people afterwards saying, that was just the most pleasant day spent in Seldovia. So despite a lot of people off the boats, despite being up at the school, spending an afternoon with us during a potential tsunami warning. It was lovely. The sun was shining. Kids were playing at the park. I just invited people to relax and have a picnic on the lawn if they had their lunches, and we hung out, and that seemed to work well. At 1:48, the all clear was issued and people left. The shelter was closed down. Vehicles and equipments were returned. I had a small call with KPBO-AEM afterwards, and they had asked a few questions about the siren, which, as we know, is not super effective in this community at this point with the all clear. A lot of people weren't able to hear it. It's just not carrying over into these valleys in this community. It carries over the hilltops. One day when I was driving in, when there was a test, I could hear it really clear on Rocky Road. And then when I popped down into the community, I couldn't hear it anymore. And I was like, that's the problem, is once we're dropping down into this lower portion of the community, it's not as well heard. So let her know about that as well, and that we still want to proceed with looking into a second tsunami warning siren somewhere lower in town, maybe at the harbor office. And she says she has some texts coming in August that will be coming through and just checking the system overall. So we'll be able to hopefully address something in the meantime as we work forward on that. And then she wanted to know how it worked with not having that siren go off. So I don't know if you guys have had any feedback. I do realize that caused some additional confusion. And we continue to share the message. And I was told that on Alaska News Source, they actually had the gentleman from the Tsunami Warning Center in Palmer come on, and he explained that we do have this issue with their system. The National Weather Service goes off of this polygon system, and it's large regions. Even Seward received the warning, which would not have impacted them. So they had the all clear really quickly, and then took us a little bit longer. But we know that that message is really broad, and they're working on a smaller, more condensed geographic system. But we were told a couple of years ago that it would be a couple of years. So I did follow up with the National Weather Service to see where they are with that progress, because it's frustrating and could have some pretty significant ramifications if we continue to, we don't want people to become complacent, right? So it's hit or miss. We don't want to cry wolf and have everybody come up and have, the stress level event when it doesn't need to happen, but we also don't want people to be complacent in case it does need to happen. So,
hey Heidi, I got a question for you. So what I might have missed that. Was there actually some verbiage that was communicated when you were talking about the whole system with them not doing the siren? Was that communicated over the loudspeaker, or how was that communicated?
it was communicated directly with the communities. We have a Zoom communication protocol that we do with the borough, and then it was also communicated over Facebook.
Okay, when you say with the, but I guess when you talked about confusion, very confusing, much confusion when you're trying to evacuate an entire hotel of tourists and everybody's freaking out. So I was a little pissed, quite frankly, because I went on Alaska Tsunami Warning Center like I always do, and there it is right there. Massive 7.3 off Sandpoint, blah, blah, blah. Tsunami is imminent, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, oh, okay. Everybody's got this thing on their phone. Now, ironically, I didn't get it on my phone, and it must know where you're at, not just if you're like a resident of the community or something. So I'm not sure how that works. My wife got it on her phone. I didn't get it on my phone. but I was also out in Wales, like literally getting on an airplane when that happened. But it created for my wife and all of our people downtown, it definitely created some confusion not hearing the siren. So I didn't know at that point if it was a malfunction or if it was a planned event. I just don't know how the general public finds out about any of this. And then, on the vice versa, had that been a 7.3 right out in front, out in the inlet, I mean, I don't know what that time frame looks like for then the siren actually going off, versus whatever level of protocols and whoever's making that decision for it to go off.
Yeah, that's much shorter, which is scary, which is why that's my
Yeah.
first instinct is to go to the shelter and open it up, and then find out more information. So it's frustrating. It is not a great working system. Would you and the siren was at the discretion of the siren going off was at Mayor Machicki's disposal. So he's the one that decided he didn't want anything to go off unless it was an all clear or an actual confirmed event. So any feedback is, I'm sure, welcomed by the
I guess
borough.
I didn't even know
And
that
the
was an
local-
option. Maybe that's
Yeah.
been talked about amongst a bunch of working groups or something. But I mean, to the communities, did we know that that was even an option?
It was not an option until very recently. The borough last year, or maybe it was the year before, hasn't been that long, decided to move away from having, and with the new sirens, move away from having the National Weather Service automatically trigger these sirens because we know that this is an issue. So I believe that the communities have been pretty loud about we need to stop having these automatic warnings for things that could be an advisory or things that may not impact our communities, and take a little bit more of a cautious approach. And so I believe this is the borough's response to that, of trying to have a little bit more caution and slow rolling that warning. But it is confusing because National Weather Service, it automatically goes out. I mean, I was in the fuel station when it went off and all phones were blaring. It sounded like the siren because it was so loud.
Because everybody's phone was getting them simultaneously.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Fair enough. Yeah, I was just curious how that was working. So, yeah, I mean, lesson learned. I think a lot of people will probably learn from that, and as long as it's communicated, then because obviously it's a big deal in this state. Anytime you have an earthquake over 7, yeah, you better be paying attention.
yeah, and we're making split second decisions, pretty quickly when that initial warning goes off. But I think we can do a better job communicating in the future that we're on a pause and we're waiting to hear more information. So if there's time, we obviously don't want to be wasting any time if it's a near event.
Sounds good. Thank you.
But thank you for the feedback, and I will share that. Anybody else? Okay. Independence Day celebration, just hearing positive feedback on that event. It was hosted by Seldovia Chamber of Commerce as usual, except they did not have a coordinator this year. So quite a few businesses and individuals stepped up to help with logistics, including the city of Seldovia. We took a little bit more ownership of the vendor applications as we kind of did the last year, and it just makes sense for that. And then continued logistics in the background. So that seems to work. It seemed to go smooth. If you guys have any other input, please let us know. We're moving forward. Quick staffing update. Will Booth was hired as a senior meals assistant and for refuse collection. Jamie Williams and Allison Ryan have stepped down from their positions with the city of Seldovia. We did not receive any declarations of interest for the council vacancy. The declaration of candidacy will open on August 1st. That goes through August 1st through August 15th. And there are 4 open seats. 2 3-year terms and 2 2-year terms. So those seats are Vivian and Ashley are the incumbents. And if you guys know anybody else interested, and then Jack is one of our appointed for the 2-year seats. And then we have a vacancy, as you guys know. So if you guys know anybody who is wanting to step up and get involved in local government, this is a great opportunity. Please let them know that they need to file before the 15th or by the 15th. Jan mentioned the FY26 audit is beginning. We talked about the upper dam, and you guys have a copy of that periodic safety inspection. That draft was sent to you. And we talked about NERS, KB NER, and let me see here, everything else. And we've already discussed, I believe. So if you have any questions, please let me know.
Awesome. Thank you. Lots of information. As always, most of it good. And so, yeah, good update, Heidi. Appreciate that. Anyone else have any questions, comments on the city manager's report tonight?
Oh, Mr. Mayor, one more thing.
Sure.
I am planning to attend the summer conference in Uchagavik in Barrow, August 11th through the 14th. I do have a hotel room. There's no hotel rooms left, but if anybody wants to join me, let me know. I think there might be still room on the plane. I heard you might have interest, Mr. Mayor. So if we need to help you with travel arrangements for the plane, and looking at alternative lodging options, please let us know.
Yeah, I can come up with lodging, I think, up there. So, yeah, I'll let you know. I gotta look at my schedule and see what I got going on. Sounds good. All right, let's see. Item O, informational items not requiring action. Seldovia City Council work session tentatively scheduled for August 4th regarding the commercial business district ordinance and a draft abatement ordinance. More to come on that. Hopefully we can get a quorum together for that. And declaration of candidacy period for the city of Seldovia, October 7th. Regular election opens August 1st. 2025 closes August 15th. 4 seats, as Heidi just said, to be filled in the upcoming election with 2 3-year terms and 2 2-year terms.
Mr. Mayor.
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, perfect time. I just would like to announce it's been an honor and a privilege to be on council, but I will not be running. My time is up, so we need to start beating the bushes and finding some people to come in the new slot. But thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, thanks, Vivian. I appreciate you letting us know. Definitely be missed on council. So appreciate all your it's not over yet. Obviously, you got a little bit more to go here, but yeah, appreciate all your years of dedication to the community on that. So
you bet. Thanks.
All right. Item P, executive session, none. Item Q, council and mayor comments concerning items not on the agenda. Keithley.
Nothing tonight.
All right. Thank you. Langbart.
No comment.
Barber.
No comment.
Rojas.
Thank you, everyone, for all your hard work. That's it. Have a good night.
Okay. Thank you, Vivian. All right. Let's see. Next meeting, regular meeting will be held Monday, August 11th is the plan right now. And I will look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Second it.
Okay. Any objection to the motion to adjourn? Hearing none, we are adjourned. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
All right. Good night, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Heidi. Thank you, Liz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.